Hello, welcome back to GOT. Today we're going to put the Oppo Find N6 against the OnePlus Open, and we're going to find out if they're really worth upgrading and answer those questions that you all want to know. Let's go. So to just kind of open old wounds, if you all remember, the OnePlus Open came out and it was my favorite phone, and a lot of us, our favorite foldable when it did. It beat the Pixel Fold and the Samsung Z Fold at the time. It was just a really good, and it still is a great phone. And we were all hoping they were going to come out with a 2, but they didn't. They came out with the Oppo Find N5 instead, which had really poor batteries, poor sound. Everything was pretty bad on that. So now we have the Oppo Find N6. Did they make up for it? Did they improve? Let's get into this video. Now, on my last video, I did talk a little bit about the look and feel, so we really won't dive into that too much, but I was just going to show you how they actually perform a lot alike. So they both have the touch sensitive power button. Basically, you just touch them and they turn right on. And they're both really fast that way. Now, let's go ahead and see how they perform on the day-to-day. So just using these, they both are very good. They're both very fast. And remember, this is a Snapdragon Gen 3. Yeah, no, it's a Snapdragon Gen 2 on the OnePlus Open. And over here on the Oppo Find N6, it has a Snapdragon 8 Elite chip. Gen 5, I guess they call it the Gen 5 Elite, whatever. So it has the most current chip. Of course, it only has 7 cores. It doesn't have the full 8 cores. So it is missing a little bit, and we'll find out why it has that and how that performs later. So as you see, the flow is just very much the same on both these. It's just, you know, it's not showing its age because this thing has 16 gigabytes of RAM. This one also has 16 gigabytes of RAM. All right. They both have 512s of storage. So really good. Now, let's just go ahead and open up apps. Let's open up the Play Store on both of them. Just as snappy. Okay. Let's open up YouTube. I have it in different places here. Very snappy right there. Go through YouTube really quick. You know, it's just as fast on both of them. Matter of fact, that pulled up a little faster. So let's go ahead and open up a browser, open up Edge here on both of them. You know, pretty close to the same. Not really any faster on one or the other. What on my calendar? Okay, a little bit faster here on the newer phone, but it should. Okay, so they both run really smooth. And let's go ahead and open them both up and see how they look. I got them opened up. Let's look at the screens. Got the OnePlus Open. You know, they did a really good job 3 years ago making that surface so you can't hardly see that crease. And then, of course, we know the Oppo Find N6 is, you know, pretty much creaseless. You can't see that at any angle. I can barely see it here on the OnePlus Open. So they did a real good job several years ago. So there's not a whole lot of difference there. Then when we look at the size, of course, they increased the size. You've got a larger 8.1-inch diagonal screen here versus this one, I believe, is a 7.95 or something. I don't quite remember what that one is, but we know it's not 8. Is it a 7 point? It's not a 7.6, is it? I think it's more of a 7.8. Anyway, I'll put it up on the screen. So you can see, but as far as the space here, they both have about the same amount of space. I mean, I like the larger apps format here than we have on here. I can't quite get this to match that. I've tried. There is a way to increase the size of the apps and shrink them a little, but this is the closest I could actually get. Now, the way I love this UI and the reason why I like it more than any other out there is simple. You know, the simplicity of it and the way it works. Check out these folders. You can shape your folders any way you want. You can have the long ones, the big ones, the small ones. So you don't have a small one somewhere. A small folder, yeah, right there. You can have the smaller folders. There's one there. And what's really cool is, see this folder? You know, on any of these, you can just tap, okay? Like there's my file program. You just tap on it and it opens it up. You don't have to open up the folder. And then I got more in this folder. If you can see right here, there's another 4. And check this out. This is really cool. You just slide right there and you can tap the other ones. I think that is just the coolest thing. You know, you can go ahead and go to the other apps that are shrunk down. and check it out. You can do that here too on the OnePlus Open. So the OnePlus Open has the new UI that works the same as the Oppo Find N6. That's just incredible. So looking at it so far, is there any improvements on the Oppo Find N6 from the OnePlus Open, or if you wanted to call that the Find N3, okay? Because the Find N3 and the OnePlus Open are the same. So I'm not seeing any improvements so far. They look almost identical in performance. Even you look at the coloring on the screen, they look the same. So if you have the OnePlus Open, as far as your daily use and performance, they are the same. You're not going to get much improvement. I mean, it's just as fast. Now let's go ahead and open up paired apps. Got a couple apps paired there, here. You can see you could pair them and you could have them side by side, and that's really cool. And they both operate the same way. Touch here in the bottom, you can swap sides. You can touch this and you could go top bottom split. I mean, they work the same. Although you see what this did, this actually increased them to full size. Let's see if I can do small size. I don't want full. Let's do that. Nope, it splits it. You can't do what you can do here. I've got top and bottom the same size. That's interesting. So that was not what I intended to do. Let's go ahead and go back to the split here. So what's interesting on this one, let's do top to bottom. See how it goes full screen, and it does not. This one you can still have a split screen, which I really like. I'm not sure why you can't do that. Maybe somebody out there has experience and you can make that work, but for some reason it doesn't want to do that. You have, when you go top to bottom, it splits them this way. Hit the three dots. Does it make it go any smaller? No, it does not. You have full screen split view, which puts it to the side, floating windows, switch apps, or close. Over here, I've got floating or expand. So check this out. I could expand this one. Now that one's full page, and then swap to this one. And I can do the same thing here. I can expand this one. So I can do the same thing here, but I can also shrink it down. So let's see. Is there a way to stop the expanse, shrink right there? Check that out. Can't do that over here. I'm not quite sure why. So right there, so far, multitasking, you have more capabilities on the OnePlus Open. I just found that out just now, just like you did. So that is really shocking to me as well. Now, let's go ahead and see what happens if we want to add a third app. Let's go ahead and do left-right split here. And can I go back to left-right split here? Yeah, there we go. Left-right split there. Now, if you want to add a third app, you can take them from this bar on the side. Okay, they both have a bar here. And let's just do Chrome on. All you got to do is tap it, I believe. There you go. And now you have a floater. Okay, and so you can do a floater there. Or let's go ahead and close these up. Or if you want, you could take this app and you could drag it here and you put it in this box and it becomes a third app. How does it perform over here? Take and drag it here and there is no box. Oh, there's the box. And release it. Okay, now you got a third app. It's down here. That's interesting. So are we not able to go side by side here on the OnePlus Open? I thought we were. Maybe not. So that's interesting. So if you get a third app, it goes down on the bottom. So there's a little bit of a difference. So that's interesting. So they both can open up 3 apps. It's just on the OnePlus Open, you have 2 side by side and 1 down below. You can put all 3 side by side here, which I kind of like here on the OnePlus Open. You can also do that on other phones. I believe Samsung now does it. We know that Honor Magic does. So I'm not sure why the OnePlus Open hasn't done that yet. So now we got 3 apps open and we can still do a floater if we want to. And let's go ahead and why not float photos here on this one. And I might as well just do edge. You can float. So you can float another one there. And then if you can do another one here, let's see, let's go ahead and just do calculator. And then over here, if we add another one, I think all it does is replace. Okay, it replaces, and then over here you've got 2 stacked, and that's the most you get is 2 stacked here, a floater, 3 open apps. And so if I open up another app, let's just open up the remote. Okay, the remote comes in and replaces, and then over here you still only have 2, so we lost that third one. So the maximum you can get here is 3 open, floater 4, and 2 on the side. So that's 6, 6 open all at once. That's the most you could do right here. But, you know, who's going to do that much? I mean, not me. So as you can see, multitasking is really great on either one of them. I don't think you can go wrong. It's a little bit different. Now, I'd like you all to be honest with me. Let me know. What do you do? I mean, rarely do I ever have a third app open. It's 2. I do that a lot. I use 2. Every now and then, I might throw a third one on there if I need to gather some data. But for the most part, 2 apps is really sufficient. But it's really cool that you can actually open up more and put some here on the sidelines if you want to quickly access them, like a calculator is something that I like to do. So there's answering the question, does it multitask? And it sure does. Now, before we go any further, let's go ahead and look at settings on both of them. There's the settings. There it is. Just looks a little different. And we'll go down here and let's look about the device on both of them. And you can see the OS is the same. You got Color OS 16.05, 16.03, Oxygen OS look very close to the same. You have 512 gigabytes here, 512. Snapdragon Elite Gen 5 here, Snapdragon 8.2. Okay, I mean, that's old. Batteries. Now let's look at the battery. You got a 6,000 milliamp hour battery here on the Oppo Find N6 and 4,805 milliamps on the OnePlus Open. 3-year-old phone and still beats the battery on the Samsung, being 4,400 milliamps. I mean, they really built this thing to last. Both of them have 16 gigabytes of RAM. This one will do up to 4, I guess, faster. Look at the cameras here. It tells you a little bit about the cameras. Here you have a front 20 megapixel and inside 20 megapixel camera, rear 200 megapixel camera, and then a 50-50, okay, on the others. So over here you have a 48-48 and a 64, and the 64 megapixel is that zoom lens. So now it's time to go ahead and start talking about the cameras. Let's take a look. So you can see the setup's not that much difference. They have the flash in the same spot. What's really different is the cameras. Now, they both have the Hasselblad, which is really great for processing it. And we're going to see here in a little bit if they do any better or if they improved it any over the last 3 years. Now, 48 megapixels versus 50 megapixels, really close, and that's what the main shooter and ultra wide are 48 here. On here, the main shooter is actually the 200 megapixel, and then they have a 50 megapixel zoom lens, 3 times zoom, and a 50 megapixel ultra wide. On here, the zoom lens is a 64 megapixel zoom lens, so it's got a little bit higher specs, and the camera sensors on this are a little bit larger than the sensors on the OnePlus Open. I'm sorry, the Oppo Find N6. I get them confused. Now, let's go ahead and see how they both perform during day and night. You can see here I've got the OnePlus Open right there on the right, and the Oppo or Oppo. Is it Oppo or Oppo? I don't know. The Find N6 over here on the right, and I guess on the left is the OnePlus Open. I might have said that backwards. Anyway, this is just your standard screenshot. And I don't know if I did an ultra wide. Did I do an ultra wide? I took all of these in portrait mode. And as you can see here, they're very close to the same. The sky, I think the clouds might have moved. I was in a very busy traffic area, but I love these old buildings. So I had to pause between phones quite a bit. So that's why the clouds might have changed a little bit, but the building's pretty much the same. And as you can see, they both did really well on this photo, very close to the same. And if you notice here, we've got the settings here. You've got 23 millimeters here and 24 millimeters on the OnePlus Open. So you got a little bit wider range here on the Oppo, wider lens. Now you've got f1.7 on the OnePlus, which that's a setting on the camera lens that allows it to allow more light in. More light gives you more clarity. So it has a little bit better lens there. And if you look, they both use close to the same ISO. You got 50 over here on the Oppo, on the Find N6, and you've got 64 here on the OnePlus Open. So they're very close to the same. The Find N is a little darker, as you would expect, because of that lens, that 1.8 versus a 1.7. So you've got a little more light here probably a little more detail if you were to zoom in, but we're not going to do that on this first ultra wide or this first image. So here we went ahead and zoomed in 3 times on both of them. And this is really cool because you could see here that there wasn't a lot of change, but you can see a little darkness here in the Find N6, just like the previous. A little more color over here on the OnePlus Open, but they're both really close to the same. Now, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this photo because they are both using their 3 times lens. This one's a 50 megapixel, and this one right here on the OnePlus is a 64 megapixel. So looking at this, oops, let's go ahead and see if we can slide them over. Same here, and slide that one up. Maybe go in one more click. How's the detail here? Pretty close. What's interesting is the clarity on both of them is right there. I'm not seeing much difference between the two. So you've got the bricks outlined. You can see everything really well. I mean, this is good. They're both doing about the same. I'm not really picking one over the other. Maybe you guys can decide. Let's go to another photo here. Now, this is another zoom shot on both of them. Now they're the same. You got the 230 versus 233, about the same. 2.6 versus 2.7. So again, a little more light is allowed in. However, for some reason, the N6 looks a little brighter. Now, these are both on their zoom lenses, and it actually looks a little clearer. It could be the sun was out a little more. I don't know. But the clarity on both of them is there. I think I prefer the N6 a little more because of the extra light. I think it's a little clearer, but they're right there together. Is there really any improvement? That's really hard to say. And then we'll go to this next photo here. I see what happened. I mixed up a couple of photos. And this is zooming in 20 times on both of them. So 20 times, how does it look? You've got a little more clarity now on the OnePlus this time, where things start to really mesh together and blur on the brick here on the Find N6. So looking at the detail on the sign, they're both pretty much the same. I think the OnePlus is a little more accurate because it is a faded sign. You're getting a little more color added here to the Find N6. But, they're both, again, about the same. Now we can go back to this other photo. There we go. That's the same photo there. And again, the OnePlus, a little more light, giving us a little more detail. And if we were to click in, you can see it. And let's click in on this one. Click in a little further there. And yeah, so how's the detail on those signs? This one's got a little darker, so it's kind of hard to see. You can read them both fairly clearly, but I think, the added coloring done here on the N6 kind of messes it up a little bit, and you got quite a bit more blur. See, looky right here, there's a lot more blur. This is much more focused here on the Oppo, on the OnePlus Open, that is. So during the daylight, I don't know. It's really hard to tell the difference between the two. And we're talking, 2 generations removed. This, I would have hoped to be a lot better. So there's your daytime shots. I'm kind of surprised. They're like neck and neck. I was really expecting, not just hoping, but expecting the Oppo Find N6 to do a lot better and kind of blow it away, but it didn't. Hey guys, I want to take a quick second and thank you for tuning into this channel. I've got to tell you, this video got a whole lot longer than I expected because this is quite the battle. So we're going to actually hold this one here and we're going to cover the rest in part 2 on Monday. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the rest of this video. And you want to make sure that you don't miss because we're going to cover nighttime shots, battery, performance, speakers, and so much more. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And we'll see you on Monday.